Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Earthdawn Survival Guide, the podcast for all disciplines, paths, players, and game masters. With your questers, Josh and Dan. I'm Dan.
I'm Josh.
And on today's podcast, we'll be discussing all things original, because we're going to talk about one of the very first adventures to be written by Lou Prosperi for first circle characters as the introduction to Earthdawn. So very original, updated for 3rd edition. So if you have any questions for us, please drop us a line at edsgpodcast@gmail.com. Our inbox is empty. First come, first serve. Josh, any announcements you'd like to make?
Oh, yes. We talked about this before we started recording. A little bit of a good news, bad news situation. The good news is that I am returning to stage production, theater production for the first time in 20-something years. The last show that I was in was a production of 1776 back right around the time or shortly before I got married. Because of job and life and stuff like that, my schedule hadn't really allowed me to commit to theater production because they often rehearse in the evenings and my work schedule was often having me work till 10:30 or 11 at night and weekends as well. So
been there.
Yeah, it was a whole thing that I just wasn't able to do it for absolutely legitimate logistical reasons.
Yes.
But I missed it. It is something that I really, really enjoy doing. There is a local theater group called $10 Theater up here in Bangor that does 2 or 3 productions a year. They do a Shakespeare show usually in the summer. I can't take part in that because part of their show weekends are during Gen Con. And I kind of have that commitment to Gen Con. So I can't do that production.
Priorities, man. Priorities.
I did audition for something for them last year and didn't get cast. I took part in a 24-hour not even one act, but a 24-hour play production thing where we get together Friday evening at 7. One person gets assigned to be a director. They get 2 or 3 actors assigned to them, and then a writer, and they get together and they basically come up with the idea. The writer writes a play, and then it gets rehearsed and presented Saturday evening. So you basically have 24 hours to write and produce a basic, no lighting cues, no elaborate costumes or sets or anything like that.
No.
But it's like a really knock 'em down, drag out, like 10-minute play thing, like a little kind of scene that you put together. And I was a director and I had a lot of fun. It was a great production. The whole thing was a lot of fun.
Yes.
But anyway, this coming Halloween, or shortly before Halloween, the company is putting together a production called Scary Stories, which is a mishmash of free and public domain spooky stuff that are going to be mounted as a production. One of the things that's being done is a sort of dramatic reading / interpretation of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven.
Nice.
Also is going to be a production of a bit of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman tale.
Ichabod Crane. Yes.
Where some members of the cast will basically be reading the actual text of the story.
Yeah.
With other members doing what is being described, and when characters in the story are speaking, the actual character that is portraying them on stage will actually be speaking the line, doing that kind of thing.
Nice.
I kind of like this. Back when I was in my 20s, I did The Telltale Heart as a monologue, which worked really, really well. Anyway, I went and I auditioned, and I got cast, which is fantastic. I am thrilled. I am excited.
Yay.
I'm nervous. So that's the good news. Bad news is, unfortunately, that I got my rehearsal schedule a couple of days ago and went and looked at the parts that I'm doing and what the rehearsal schedule is. My rehearsal schedule for the next 6 weeks is Saturday and Sunday afternoons, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings.
Yeah.
starting at like 6:30 and probably going until like 8:30, 9 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah. So just late enough in the evening where we can't record this podcast.
So that's the thing, is that coupled with not only recording the podcast, but also the other like production aspects of things and my other duties that I need to keep up with to get Earthdawn products finished and out the door.
Yeah.
Something's going to have to give. And so that means that the survival guide is going to be going on hiatus for 6 or 7 weeks, thereabouts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We've got this episode that is dropping now as you're listening to it. We will have one more episode that'll be coming out next week, and we will sort of be repeating really quickly just as a reminder that will be the last one. But looking at the schedule, it looks like the next time that we will actually be able to sit down and record is going to be October 30th, which means that the episode that we record that night will actually come out the next week. So we are likely going to be on hiatus until the beginning of November.
Probably the beginning of November, because October 30th is my wedding anniversary. Pretty sure we won't be able to record that evening.
Okay. Well, we can talk about it, but yeah.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Sorry.
Even if we find something else, like...
Just looked at that.
Closing night of the show, and it's actually a closing matinee, is Sunday the 27th. So after that, my schedule will be...
significantly lighter, yes.
Yeah, we'll be back to something resembling normal. So, yeah, we will be on hiatus until November, whether that's the first or second week in November.
Yeah.
We'll do that. If things change, we'll drop an announcement in the feed or something like that.
Totally.
That's the plan. What that does mean, however, to get back to what you said earlier, gives you plenty of time to get emails into us. It would be really cool if one of the first things that we could do when we come back is to just record an email episode.
Or two. The
email box is technically not empty right now. We do have 2 emails, but certainly not enough to do an email episode right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, get those emails into us. Again, we hope to be back. The plan is not currently to pod fade. If things change, we'll make an official in the feed announcement of it. But this is just an opportunity came along that I have been wanting to do for a while, and I couldn't say no.
Well, I'm also flexible enough to say, let Josh go scratch that itch. So by all means, go.
Yeah. We have 2 more episodes. We've got tonight and we've got next week. So anyway, let's get to talking about Journey to Lang.
Absolutely. Or, by the way, during that 6-week period, if there's any topics we have not covered that you'd like us to cover in the future, send them in to us.
Yeah, absolutely. There have been some suggestions that we've got.
Yeah.
We've got a few more adventures that we can talk about, so we're going to kind of keep working on those.
And we will, yes.
But next week will be the Nethermancer episodes from Deeper Secrets, the Nethermancer spells from Deeper Secrets.
Yes.
And that will wrap up our review of the first and second circle spells from that new book. Mm-hmm. So that will kind of be a punctuation on that series for a bit. We may go back and do
third and fourth
circle spells or something like that.
Yeah, because we did from the player's guide, so we're leaving that out.
If there's other stuff that you want us to talk about, then by all means, drop us a line, send us an email.
Yeah, other source books we can mine for content. We will absolutely do so. We have orc tribes to get to. We've got the noble houses of Thera to get to. We have the noble houses of the Dwarven Kingdom to get to. And I've lost my list. It's around here somewhere. We have some other content to get to.
We haven't really talked about... I don't think we've really done a dive into Travar. I don't think we've really talked about
Not
Iopos.
Since it came out, no.
Okay, so did we talk about it when it came out? I don't remember.
We kind of skimmed over it a little bit, but not terribly.
We didn't do the kind of dive that we have done with the other stuff, though, right?
You are correct.
Okay.
Mostly because I had it on PDF and didn't actually have a chance to read it. So yeah, now I'm going to go read it.
And then I don't think we had done a lot about Iopos yet either.
Nope. We've been letting that one simmer for a bit.
There are subjects that we can come back to.
And then, of course, all the adventures in the Haven Sourcebook Volume 1.
Yeah. So anyway.
We'll be here talking at you for a while. Anyway, yes, to Josh's point, on to Journey to Lang. This is in the Shards Collection Volume 1. As you mentioned a couple of episodes ago, this one actually was written by Lou himself. because I believe this is supposed to be one of the easiest, most straightforward introductions to Earthdawn and its mechanics. You could pretty much run this as a one-nighter, a one-session, a convention game, easy as pie, things like that.
Yeah, Lou can correct us if we're wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the only adventure that came before this in terms of release was the one in the original promo flyers.
Yeah.
Sometimes referred to as Care Tardim, the one with the pre-generated characters and Farless's dagger.
Yes.
Which is another like
maps.
really short. I think Journey to Lang was the one that they ran at conventions when they were sort of first demoing the game back in the day.
Sounds about right to me. But yes, by all means, Lou, chime in when you hear this, post it, where you're going to post it. So, I mean, it literally says in the first paragraph, this is a straightforward adventure. It is not to be confused with anything more complex. There's no deeper mystery. It is 3 to 5 initiate or novice characters designed, it's short, simple, and straightforward. Designed to introduce players to the Earthdawn game system in the world of Bar Save, and therefore its mechanics. So this is as easy as you're going to find. If you've never been a game master before, this is where you want to start.
Yeah, this is certainly a good place.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of complexity to it. There's like a couple of encounters. There's some ROLE playing, so maybe some use of skills and your charisma tests. There's some combat, so obviously use of all your physical things. But really, there's no horror involved directly, and there's no bigger thing going on. So it's a little bit of travel, and there's really not a way to expand upon this or stretch it for time. So very concise, very compact, very well done. Here's the basic plot of the whole thing. Your players are in Bartertown, because why not start in Bartertown? This is going to be a traveling adventure. You meet a dwarf. He invites you to go meet his boss, whose name is Darren, Darron, and Darren wants you to contact his town, Duranis, Darranis. So Darren and Duranis, the name should be similar a little bit. To see what has happened to them, he's lost contact with his town. That's it.
Duranis is not the town that has lost contact. Duranis may be where they meet him, but the town that's lost contact is Lang. That's why it's called Journey to Lang.
Sorry. I'm very tired.
Yeah, Duranis is the port on the Coil River where the player characters catch the riverboat to head down towards Lang.
I wrote my notes so quickly I completely spaced out half of this plot. So we need a hiatus. Guess what? One's coming up soon. Dan's a little overstretched
some rest there, my friend.
Good gravy. I'm so tired. Anyway, so once that negotiation takes place, because again, your player characters need to negotiate with Darren, and that gets taken care of. So a little charisma, some social interaction, some negotiation, knock yourself out. This is getting used to the mechanics of Earthdawn. Then you travel to Scrying, so basically travel from Bartertown down to the Serpent River, the Coil River, and you travel by to Scrying Riverboat, and then rowboat down to the landing spot off of the tributary. So while you are on the riverboat, there are some encounters designed for you to, again, get the players used to rolling the dice, get them used to the step system, get them used to what they can possibly do. And so the Scrying on the riverboat challenge the player characters to some rope swinging and some knife throwing. Just casual, no harm can come to you unless you fall. Falling damage is a thing, or you get wet in the river. That's pretty much it. So it's just, here's how to do your tests, here's how to get used to the actions and the step system.
Yeah. And then the group arrives at the docks at the place where they have to disembark from the river, and it's a couple of hours walk from there to Lang itself. Yes. Along the way, they find a couple of different groups that are dead that provide some clues as to why there hasn't been any contact from this community for some time.
Exactly.
There is an encounter with lightning lizards.
Mm-hmm.
And then the group finally arrives at the village and does a little bit of investigation and finds out what is going on. And with the final confrontation, that is the end of the adventure as it is presented.
Yeah. So along the way, while you're walking, the rowboat, maybe you want to have them do a test or so. Once they land and pull the boat up to shore, then there's that walk. To Josh's point, you meet two groups of corpses. This is where you might get to actually stretch your legs a little bit as a game master and have everybody do all of their investigation rolls. And maybe even a lock picking, because there's a chest that they find that actually has money in it. So they can do some creature lore in the lightning lizard. They can do some evidence analysis on the scenes that they come across, some lock picking, maybe if they want to try so. Because one is Darren's last group of couriers who didn't make it, hence why you got hired. And the other one is the lying villagers sent out for help. So those are the two groups that they come across. When they get to the village, they can, again, do more of the evidence analysis, because some huts are burned, some partial, some all the way. There are two dead obsidimen, which don't look like they're part of the village. And, of course, there's other villagers that are dead as well. Once they show up there and start looking around, they're, of course, attacked by the cadaver men lying in the village. Up to 2 dwarves, up to 3 humans, depending upon the size of your party. So, again, combat ensues, and they get to actually meet one of the original Earthdawn creatures, the cadaver men. So,
yes,
they get to do that. And then, of course, after that combat, hopefully they survive, they get to do all the exploration and finding the hidden and sheltered villagers. So a lot of perception rolls, some charisma, some persuasion to get them to convince the hidden people that it's safe to come out because they're heroes and they've saved the day. They may, if there's an obsidimen in your party, they may be a little reluctant to do so because the obsidimen that have been attacking their village are horror tainted. So no direct horror, just a adjacent horror.
Right. So this adventure overall covers some very iconic themes and notions of Earthdawn. The travel, the isolation of communities. It introduces the group to the Tskrang and the riverboats, which is a iconic aspect of Barsave as a setting.
Absolutely.
It introduces the idea that the horrors are in some capacity still around and causing problems. While the group does not face a horror directly in this, they are dealing with the consequences and aftermath of a horror doing nasty things. And the notion of being heroic types that are going to be presumably helping people that are in distress and danger.
Yes. So the more heroic aspects of you're not here for the treasure, you're not here to kill a dragon, you're here to be the heroes, investigate, help, reestablish a community, and doing the good deeds. Yeah, maybe you get paid for it at the end, fine.
Yeah. It's something that I think Lou had mentioned, but something that I believe as well. Early adventures that you create for a published game setting and official adventures that get released are often used to provide a sort of template that models the style of play and the themes and ideas and things that you can do with the setting and the system and the type of stories that you imagine taking place.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that this adventure does very, very well. And to a certain extent, we talked about them already, the other early adventures, Mists of Betrayal and Terror in the Skies and Infected, like all of those early 3 adventures. Go back to those episodes and listen to them if you haven't already.
Yes.
In their own way, provide other models of adventure frameworks and the types of stories and the types of hazards and dangers and situations that player characters are likely to find themselves in. And again, those earlier adventures have a fairly strong theme about horrors and isolation and the consequences of things of people dealing with the aftermath of the scourge and so forth.
Yes.
And then we haven't talked about it yet, but Blades likewise has a very similar idea in that it is an adventure that is created to provide a template or a model for how thread items could be used to drive or shape a story arc.
Mm-hmm. So I like Journey to Lying. I think I've actually run it once or twice, just as just as an introduction. I tend to do it after the Search for Wisdom because by this point, I like the search for Runevir's Tomb first. But I'm also playing with experienced players. This one I think is fantastic, like I said, for a first-time game master and a very first-time player, if not a first-time Earthdawn player.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of railroady, which is fine.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room to go off the map.
No.
The one that we talked about previously, Kept in the Dark.
Yes.
Where there is kind of an arc that is going on there, but there are multiple branching and crisscrossing paths that go off one way and then come back to the main story and whatnot. So there is a, more flexibility within that framework for things to vary from adventure to adventure in terms of like different times that you might run it. That's not so much the case with this one unless you are more experienced and willing to do quite a bit more work.
Yeah. There's to your point, there's a whole lot fewer if-then statements in this adventure, but I think if you're coming at this adventure from a D&D style campaign, then this is what you'd want to use to sell those players on Earthdawn aspects.
Yeah, because it is in some ways a stereotypical linear adventure dungeon crawl without it actually involving a dungeon/care.
Fair.
It's a point A to point B to point C with stuff that happens along the way. The only real influence that the player characters will have on the story is based on the actions that they take and whether they are successful in doing what needs to be done.
Yes.
There's no taking sides here. There's no negotiating. There's no real moral quandary. It is a very straightforward, simple, no nonsense kind of adventure, which is really the kind of thing that you want to present as an introductory first-time model adventure.
Yeah.
And then you can start bringing in the nuance and other stuff later on. Let's talk about Infected.
Agreed.
That is not an adventure that I would say should be the first one to expose a new group to, because there is a lot of nuance in it and a lot of things that play on expectations that should have been established by previous adventures.
Yeah.
In terms of dealing with horrors and stuff like that, so that there is an understanding of why the situation is what it is, and then the discovery of, oh no, it's not actually what we thought it was.
Yes, because this is, like you said, railroady, but it kind of needs to be. It's the hill. Go there, figure out what's going on, come back to me. Okay, that's as railroady as you can possibly get. So you're going to need to keep pushing on in this direction until you find something out, and then push on that direction on the way back. So.
And all that said, the combat encounters, and there are three of them.
Three, yeah.
There's the lightning lizards, there's the
cadaver
men, and there are the corrupted obsidimen
at the end. Yeah.
Their life rock has been corrupted by a horror, and they are going out and causing ruckus and problems because of it.
Yeah.
None of the fights are particularly tough.
Nope.
The cadaver men fight, obviously, cadaver men, notorious for
that whole wound thing.
Yeah, that whole flying into a frenzy if they get wounded thing. That's probably the most potentially dangerous aspect of it. The one included in the Shards Collection 1 does have things kind of scaled for starting first circle characters in 3rd edition.
Yes.
The lightning lizards are potentially difficult because of the lightning blasts that they can do. But the idea is that there aren't really going to be a lot of them. And so with a little bit of tactics with the group ganging up on them should be able to handle them without too much trouble.
Yeah.
So none of the encounters are particularly difficult, but dice are what they are in Earthdawn. And things could go badly in some capacity. The other thing is that while the adventure itself is straightforward, and once the corrupted obsidimen that attack at the end are defeated, the general idea is, okay, now Lang is safe. But there is a hook, in a sense, for possible follow-up. There's actually somebody on the Discord, the Fast Games Discord, who ran this adventure as their first adventure for their campaign and has spun a longer story out of it, following up with the corruption of the life rock and trying to figure out what they might be able to do, if anything, to restore it, or tracking down the horror that caused the problem. So there are some hooks and sequels that can be used as kind of a follow-up or to develop an early campaign arc.
Yeah.
Because yes, you maybe dealt with the immediate threat, but there are still problems to be had.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got these tainted obsidimen that came up. Great, we've dealt with them. There's still a corrupted life rock. Were there other members of that brotherhood? Where are they? Mm-hmm. There are questions that can be raised as a result of this that a GM could use to spin their own follow-up adventures and sort of make a story out of it.
Yeah, and circle back. I mean, if you can't handle the life rock at first or second circle, because probably you're going to get enough points just to go to second circle out of this, maybe you can't deal with that life rock at second circle, but you can come back to that. You can at least start investigating around, build up a little bit, circle up to third, fourth, fifth, and then tackle the life rock issue at that point. Maybe you've done enough investigation, so forth and so on. But yes, this is a nice teaser. Get the feel for Earthdawn, get the feel for the step system, get the feel for... Because there's not even any magic items to be taken out of this one.
Yeah.
So it's just enough of an introduction to get your feet wet.
It's your standard, you get hired by somebody to do a job, and you go and you do the job. One other thing, actually, that I found kind of interesting going back over to this is the riverboat journey and the stuff that you can do on that reminds me of Terror in the Skies, and how in like that first initial... airship mission where they're just kind of going out on patrol.
Yeah.
There's the hull jumping and the knife throwing competition.
Yep.
It is very, very similar in that here are some low stakes things that the group can do to bond with the NPCs, but also to just get used to rolling dice and figure out how all of that works in a situation where things can't really go too badly for them if the dice don't behave.
Well, great. Yeah, it's some nice downtime in the middle of the adventure to, again, get you used to rolling dice, get you used to looking at what the dice steps are and what your range is for successes, and see what they do. Because like this was written for first edition, and it was developed again for third edition, published, and so updating it for fourth edition really shouldn't have to change a heck of a lot, other than the success tables.
Storyline-wise, there's nothing that you would need to do to change the story at all.
No.
You could probably even just use the stat blocks for the creatures in it as they are, rather than updating them. We've got lightning lizards, so I need to use the lightning lizard stat block from the GM's guide. No, you don't. Just use the stat block that's there.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Maybe say, oh, these are smaller, they're juveniles. Mm-hmm. To maybe explain why later on, if you're using the quote-unquote official stat blocks, they're a little bit tougher. But also, the riverboat journey, you get to spend a few days with the Tiskrang, and I can't see that there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think this is the adventure there was different when I was running.
And anyway, actually, it's not even that long. It's only like half a day travel on the river. Yeah.
So like you get there in the morning and you're dropped off in the afternoon and you have to row and then by nightfall or something like that. So it's pretty easy. Or maybe you're traveling at night.
It's in the northern reach of the Serpent River, so not too terribly far from Bartertown.
Yeah.
Overall, which is why when the group arrives there is still recent evidence. There's still fires burning and stuff like that.
Yeah. So there was a different riverboat travel where my group was wanting something else, and I developed on the spot a game that we played for a good hour, really, in the middle of all this. And I ended up writing the rules down and made it a whole different Tiskrang-based game. Can't remember the name of it right now. Oh, no, Queen's Ransom. Shiva Lahala Ransom. And made up the whole rules. I have no story behind why it's called that, but I made up my own little rule set, so... One of these days I may share it with Josh and let him bash it left and right. But other than that, folks, like I said, if you've wanted to game master Earthdawn, didn't know where to start, this is the one I recommend you start with. It's the least complicated. It's, like Josh said, only 3 combat encounters. By the time you get to the third one, you'll be good at it, or at least practiced at it, and a few social interactions, some charisma-based things. Really, this is as simple as you're going to get for low prep, one session. If it goes to 2 sessions, I'll be impressed, depending on how long your sessions are. But if you're going to be your first-time game master, this is where you want to start. Thank you, Lou.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the adventures that I would strongly recommend for somebody who is new to running Earthdawn.
Yeah.
Especially if the whole group is new to Earthdawn. This is the type of introductory scenario that you want. Similar to Masks of Fear, which is the one that we had in the Quick Start Guide.
Yes.
Also the Haven Volume 1 Legends of Barsave collection. It is a short couple of hours, relatively straightforward, point A to point B to point C railroad to kind of introduce ideas and stuff to the group to let them get used to doing things. And there is absolutely a place for those sorts of adventures, regardless of the system that you're using.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts? Anything we haven't covered?
No, not really. I do like this. The payday, actually, looking at the notes, is impressive for a first circle brand new group. It's 200 silver pieces each.
Yeah.
Half up front, half on delivery. And 200 silver is a pretty nice starting point for groups to build a little bit of a nest egg.
Exactly. Get your
future adventures.
Figure out what you can go shopping for. So it gets you just enough experience and just enough silver to go, I want to keep playing in this and see what you can do from here. So folks, if you have any questions, actually tell you what, if you've done this adventure and spun something off of it, we want to hear from you. So drop us a line at edsgpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, thank Lou and Journey to Lang for your legend.
Good night, everybody.